Online Presenters has now begun. For the benefit of our guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches, or you must have sufficient relevant experience in video presentations, for example, facilitating online webinars. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Simply right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and oftentimes guests from many countries throughout the world. So many here tonight, today, this afternoon, wherever you are. So wonderful. Thus, as a professional organization, we do ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. And please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your audio and video contributions may be used for our club marketing purposes. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking to avoid disrupting the speaker. Today's theme is adventure. We will be going on an adventure, but first, before our Toastmaster kicks in, let's welcome our club president, distinguished Toastmaster Lois Margolin.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Lou Brown. I appreciate that intro. I too am from South Florida. I am a charter member of this club and humbled and honored to be the president of such a magnificent club. Deborah Carr has popped back in. Deborah, do you have a connection to maintain the chat monitor, or should we let Jimmy Dent have it?
I do have, I'm connected well. It's up to whatever Jim can go with it. It doesn't matter either way.
Okay, well, I'll let Tiger figure that one out because that is the Toastmaster of the Day's role. I'm excited about today, especially because it's going to be adventurous for me as I'm giving a speech. And we will tell you more about that as the second speaker. But for the time being, let's welcome our adventuresome Toastmaster of the Day, Toastmaster Tiger.
Thank you very much, esteemed President Lois. Welcome, everybody, to another magnificent meeting of online presenters. Our theme is adventure. I am wearing my Alaska vest that I got wrong side when I was in Alaska, and my adventure on that particular trip was getting up close and personal with a humpback whale. He decided my kayak was a toy and bumped me around, which was quite a little adventure. I'm really glad I can tell you about it. We have an excellent lineup today. We have we have 3 excellent speakers, and we have a lineup of professional evaluators. So let me get right to that. Our timer for tonight is going to be Andy Byrne. Andy, can you explain to us your role for this evening?
I'd be most happy to do so, Tiger. Different sections of our meeting are timed to teach time management skills. Speeches are normally 5 to 7 minutes unless they're an icebreaker, in which case it's 4 to 6 minutes. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and topic master questions to the people participating are 1 to 2 minutes. Green goes off at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5 minutes, and red at 2 minutes with a 30-second grace. As I get called upon, I'll update you on the timing requirements.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next evaluator will be the counter, Mr. John Callahan. Can you explain your role, please?
I will be using this old school sheet to figure out and keep track of who is saying ahs, ums, ers, ohms, repeating words, and other sorts of filler words that we all find incredibly annoying once we've gotten our ears trained to listen to them. And I'll report back at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Our chat monitor for tonight, the two people have been battling back and forth. I'm going to let Deborah go ahead and fulfill that role. Thank you, Deborah. Tell us your role tonight.
Thank you. Jim and I had talked back and forth. He just said go for it, and I said I will. So
excellent.
As a chat monitor tonight, I will be keeping an eye on the chat for anything that's going on, any different conversations. Also, if there are links that are shared, so I can share those and let everybody, remind everybody that they are in there. The other thing is the chat also carries our time. So when the timer has all the times for the speakers or whatever's going on, please post them there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lou is our grammarian for the night. Lou, can you explain your role for this evening?
Certainly, Mr. Toastmaster, as grammarian, I will keep an ear open for uncommon or less common use of certain words, colorful phrases, and incorrect grammar, which I will provide all of that information in a report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, sir. And our watcher for tonight is Mr. John Quick. Could you give us a brief explanation of your role?
Mr. Toastmaster, as the watcher, I'll be looking at everybody's video screens, doing some preventative work by sending private messages in the chat if there's anything that you can improve. Then for the speakers, I'll watch for any exceptional uses and highlight their visuals, whether they're gestures or visual aids, later in the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, sir. And last but not least is our vote counter. Tricia, can you give us a quick rundown of what you're going to do for us?
Hello, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm going to be counting the votes for 3 categories for speeches, the best speaker, table topics, and evaluations, the best evaluator. You'll do this by sending your vote privately to me through the chat box, please, and I will be giving reminders the best I can.
Thank you very much. Well, now we can move on to the speech part of our program. And our first speaker is going to be somebody who has prepared this speech for the last 5 minutes. This is going to be a fun speech. Lois's introduction is Distinguished Toastmaster and Online Presenters President, Lois Magdalene, is reviving a speech that she first presented when Pathway started to the district. This speech is designed to explain Toastmasters Pathways program to new members. Lois, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Let's make sure that everybody can see my screen. Can I have a verbal that you can see?
Yes.
All right, wonderful, thank you. Pathways, this is your Pathways 101. Yes, I know that sounds kind of unusual because we've been doing Pathways for a little bit now, but you know what? We all can use a refresher on how Pathways is working. One of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to bring Pathways back to some newer members and make sure that they could understand what is happening and how to maneuver Pathways. All right, first off, we're going to be going through what is Pathways, how to choose a path, and how to start on level 1. Has anyone here started Pathways? Let's have a show of hands. We have a few people. Do we have one who has not started Pathways? And we still have a few hands. Yay! So this is going to be very beneficial for you because you're going to know how to do this and you are going to be a champ. So let's get started. What is Pathways? That is the very first question. Pathways is what Toastmaster uses to help with our educational process. It's interactive. It helps us develop our communication and our leadership skills. It basically takes us, wait for it, through a path. I know I couldn't resist. We have up to 300 plus competencies. We are now at 11 different paths, and they are growing every year. There's online content so that you can learn anywhere, anytime. So when you're in that hotel room and it's midnight and you don't know what to do, may I just suggest that you turn on your computer and go right to Pathways. What else could you possibly want? In addition to that, this is real world transferable skills. This is something you can use over and over again. It's something that you can take with you and you'll find that it's really a benefit. So the first thing you have to figure out is, what path do I want? There's 11 of these things. You're right, there are 11. And I want to just read them really quickly so that you have an idea of what you're looking at. Now remember, this is communication and it's leadership. So we're going to be seeing two different paths butting heads here. You've got dynamic leadership, leadership development, strategic relationships, team collaboration, motivational strategies, effective coaching, engaging humor, persuasive influence, visionary communication, innovative planning, and presentation mastery. So you can see there's a number of leadership skills, and you can also see that there are a number of communication skills. When you're dealing with team collaboration, persuasive influence, visionary, all of those fall into the leadership category. So the first thing you need to know is that Toastmasters.org is your home plate. You start with Toastmasters.org, and on the top line, you're going to see this itty bitty pathways statement. 8 letters, starts with a P. Just click on that to get yourself started. Then you can click on choose a path. And from there, you come into this beautiful screen at which you are going to take the very first button, continue to your path selection. When you get into that, you're going to actually take a mini test, and the system is going to provide you 3 different paths. If you don't like those paths, it's okay. You can choose another one. It will cost you $20 after your initial path. Well, actually, it even costs you $20 for your first path, because when you sign on to Toastmasters, if you're brand new, they charge you $20 as an admin fee, which is basically going to get you to your first path. So you've taken your test, you've looked at your 3 options, you're super excited about this, and now you have chosen your path. And you're thinking, Lois, what do I do now? I have a path and I don't know what to do with it. Well, I am so glad you asked that. Let's keep going. You will be at level 1. And how do you get into this? You go back to your Toastmasters.org. You select pathways again, but this time, instead of choose a path, you're going to base camp. Now, doesn't that sound like fun? We all want to have a camp that we can go to. So let's go to base camp while we're at it. And this time, instead of choosing our path, we are going to access our path through base camp. And this is what's going to open up is your educational transcript. And you're going to open your curriculum. Interesting enough, you're going to start on level 1. Now, no matter what path you go to, level 1 is always the same. You're going to have an icebreaker, an evaluation and feedback, research and presenting, and then you're going to complete. So it sounds like you just have 3 speeches you're giving. No, that would be a little too easy. Pathways has a couple of other hidden gems underneath its belt. When you're in level 1, you actually have 3 projects. You have the icebreaker, the evaluation and feedback, researching and presenting, and then you complete level 1. An icebreaker. This is a 4 to 6 minute speech. What do you talk about? Whatever you want. Tell us about you. Tell us about your family. Tell us about your favorite vacation. This, to me, is normally the speech that you give when you meet someone for the first time. You sit down, you have lunch, you have dinner. What kind of stories do you share? What do you say about yourself? As a Toastmaster, we are going to look at this speech and determine a baseline. Where are you in the scheme of public speaking? It gives us an idea of what to be looking for, and it tells your mentor what they can do to help you further down the road. You have finished your icebreaker. Kudos to you. You are now ready for the big league. You have a 5 to 7 minute speech, and you can have a speech on any topic you like. Again, I go back to vacations. I go back to family. I go back to things that you already know, things that you're comfortable with, The idea of public speaking is not to make you afraid. The idea is to provide you the tools so that you can speak out in public without fear. All right, you've delivered that speech and you have done a fabulous job. You've even gotten an evaluation on it. Guess what? You now get to do that speech again, or you can do another speech, but you will incorporate the feedback that you just received into this speech. Now you get to serve as a speech evaluator for another member. And lastly, you get to do a speech on researching and presenting, another 5 to 7 minute speech. When that's done, congratulations, you have completed level 1 and you are ready for level 2. There are 5 levels to complete a path. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not taken pathways yet, I urge you to recognize the importance of getting started on your path, because you know what? There is no time like the present to do that. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Lois. I think you're the only person that I've ever heard that can make a Pathways introduction speech actually fun. Congratulations. Our second speaker for this evening is Norman Dow. This is a level 3 visional communication speech, increasing knowledge, connecting with storytelling. Mr. Martin Luther King's actual birthday is Wednesday. Norman Dow, an amateur historian, will use this speech to tell Dr. King's story from an unusual perspective. The title of this speech is He Made the Haters Hold Hands. Please welcome Norman.
Thank you. I'm having difficulty sharing my screen. Okay.
We're seeing your screen. You
We
just
do
need to
see
hit
your
the
screen,
that
Norman.
one
Okay,
there.
well then good.
Yep.
Good,
Now we're getting the actual slide. Perfect.
fantastic. This is my adventure in something that Elaine introduced me to. A kind of structured presentation. It's called Pekacha. Martin Luther King, when we talk about his birthday actually started, is on the 15th. We think about him as a Nobel Peace Prize winner or a tremendous orator. But he actually was a man who did something that was really unusual. He managed to unite a group of people who are not normally associated with one another. In fact, about it even may have even hated one another. He caused the haters to actually hold hands against him. Bull O'Connor, an ardent segregationist, the guy who turned the dogs and water hoses on the demonstrators in Birmingham, held hands with other haters against Dr. Martin Luther King. We would never think of him as being allied with the moderates in Birmingham, the ones that Martin Luther King wrote to in the letter from the Birmingham Jail. He wrote to an array of religious leaders, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, that advised him to go slow, to take it easy, to not stir up so much trouble, to wait. He also instigated problems with the head of the largest Black Baptist denomination, the National Baptist Convention, Dr. Jameson, who was in bed with the boss of Chicago, Mayor Daley. He also made enemies of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, who really was against anyone rising to become what he called a black messiah. He made J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI a hater who held hands with the other people I've mentioned. How did he do this? Martin Luther King did it through a commitment to truth, his truth of equality, anti-war, no compromise with sin, unjust laws needed to be disobeyed, and that love will actually overcome all hatred. Martin Luther King wasn't a real smart man. Well, he was a smart man, but that wasn't made him unusual. He was privileged, but that wasn't unusual. He was unusual because of his conviction to stand for truth and his courage to take it wherever it happened to go. That's something all of us could actually follow. He had a dream. He had a dream of how black and white and all people could be together and work towards equality. But what he did went a lot further than his dream. Well, what's the message for us? It's not just a dream. It's not just a day off. But for us, we need to live a life where our haters hold hands. Where our haters hold hands. There's a saying that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Martin Luther King actually stood for something. I implore you, stand for something. Don't fall for anything. Martin Luther King also was a man of deep spirituality. He encourages us to dive deeply into our own personal relationship with God. On his busiest days, he could be seen praying for an excess of 3 hours. He recognized that his source was God, not his own native ability. We need to follow suit. Martin Luther King also went from the bottom up, not from the top down. He not a man of the 1%. This is from the Poor People's March. He took the position of the people who did not have an advocate. I would suggest that we look at positions we hold from the bottom up also. Martin Luther King also did not calculate the return on investment. We often are told what is in it for me. He did what was right, not what he thought was in it for him. In fact, many of the things that he did that ended up being right didn't help him at all. Martin Luther King, as he went through his life, he realized that you needed to be concerned not just with enemies, but also frenemies. We need to be concerned with those that will go with us a certain distance, but are not committed to our ultimate values. Be concerned with them also. And then be a man or woman of faith. Be willing to take the courage of your convictions and go for it. Step on out. Take that leap. Do what you know happens to be right. You know, Martin Luther King did this, and it ended up costing him immensely. He was in Memphis for a march for justice and jobs in support of sanitary workers, whose actual motto was, I am a man. When he was there helping the least of the people, garbage men, he was assassinated. He was assassinated. He did what was right. His haters held hands, and as they held hands, he paid the ultimate price. But I challenge you. It may cost you everything, but it's going to be worth it. It's worth it. I want my haters holding hands. How about you? Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Norman. By the way, the word of the day is explore, as in we have now explored pathways and we've explored the life of Martin Luther King. Our third speaker is Elaine Nieberding. She joins us tonight to help us get pumped up for our guest speaker event on February 24th, Gestures for Connection. With your help, we'll make some teamwork steps for good PR, public relations, and even fulfill our Toastmaster pledge to bring guests in. Please welcome Elaine Nieberding for her DL4 Building Skills speech, Caring is Sharing. Join the PR effort.
Greetings, Tiger, Toastmaster of the Day, fellow online presenters, Toastmasters, honored guests, and of course, replay viewers. I am excited that it's 2020. Many people have been mentioning how 2020 calls to us to be in this place of clear vision, to look closely, to explore on the outside and on the inside what's important to us. For me, as vice president of this club, I am determined to take the steps to see my vision fulfilled, that we continue to have a vibrant group with renewing members and new members and great camaraderie, and that growth that helps us keep coming back. So I'm excited to remind you on February 24th, about 5 weeks from now, when this is being recorded, we have a guest speaker, Achim Nowak. No, not a sneeze, but just Achim Nowak, an executive coach, a TEDx speaker, a convener of masterminds and retreats, and an all-around great guy. I want to give you a little background story. I came to meet Achim Nowak in 2014, 2015. I was a part of a Google Plus group, and one of the people that I met in the group, I had a private conversation with her. I was being my natural self, and she said, "There's someone I must have you connect to. His energy is infectious, like yours." That was a great compliment. So I was indeed happy to meet this guy. Of course, he had realms of experience and connections and high-level work far beyond what I was doing, but I was quite flattered for the introduction. Over a period of a few years, we got connected, and just this last fall, I attended a retreat of his in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and I was so impressed with him, I thought, you know, this guy has so much wisdom and talent. There are things he has to share. I care enough about him. I want to see if I can enlist him for online presenters. And indeed, he agreed to be with us. So, caring is sharing. I am sharing him with you, and I'm hoping you will help fulfill one of the pledges that you've made as a member of Online Presenters, to invite guests. Yes, among your Toastmasters promises are to bring guests to our OP club meetings. Why? So they can see the benefits of growing online presentation skills and experience the great camaraderie that we have together. Do you remember when you rose your hand and made that pledge? I do. Well, in the next couple weeks, you're going to have a chance to fulfill that pledge that you made and help be a part of our PR effort. So for this particular event, what am I going to be doing? Well, I'm going to be creating some graphics. I'm going to be creating a video of a minute or two that will help excite people about attending this particular meeting. And I'll be providing some email copy to all of you so you can invite a friend and invite another friend and invite another friend. and I'll make it easy for you. But right now, I want to get you a little bit excited by doing a screen share so that you can even see this guy, Akeem. Here he is. Well, here he is. Take a look at this guy. Does he look comfortable in his skin? He is. Now, he's doing a little video here, well framed. We can see his whole body. His body sings. He's passionate about what he talks about. And
Green.
And he says to us, investigating our gestural vocabulary is a lifelong journey, and being mindful of our gestures is helpful. Being intentional is as well, but being self-conscious is not. So go and observe, experiment, and do it with ease. Well, when you come to this meeting, you're going to be engaged together with him, with all of us, and some fun exercises that we'll do. And you can begin exploring your gestural vocabulary. But let me ask you this. If I send you an email and ask you to forward it to a friend or two, now I'm sure you have some folks that are ready
Yellow.
to see the goodness that's here in online presenters. Might be some folks in perhaps one of the brick and mortar clubs that you attend, or another one of the online groups that you attend. Caring is sharing. Raise your right hand and say, I can. And say, I will. And if I prepare for you a graphic or two or a fun video that you can load on up to your Facebook profile, can you say, I can? Can you say, I will? Why? Because caring is sharing. We want to bring more people into this fine space of online presenters, experience the goodness, the liveliness, the excellence. It's all here for you. Be part of the team that makes for one great event and might even bring in some new members into online presenters. Tiger, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, back to you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I think it's safe to say that you also are comfortable in your own skin. In your presentations, it comes through loud and clear. Excellent 3 speeches. Mr. Timer, can you give us an update? Did all 3 of our speakers meet their time criteria?
Tiger, the following are times, and I will post them. Lois was 8:28. I didn't hear at the beginning how much time she was scheduled for, whether it was a 5 to 7 or a longer speech. Norman was 7 minutes. Elaine was 7 minutes and 18 seconds.
Thank you very much, sir. Why I have you on microphone, can you explain the strategy that you and Graham and Lois are using for the time?
We're coordinating, apparently. I just found out at the session when I joined that I was going to be the timer. I had not preset individual screens to go red, yellow, and green, but Lois and Graham probably had that already set up for themselves. So it was easy for them to do that. As I'm calling it out, like for Elaine, or putting it on my area over here, they're flipping their screens as well. So I appreciate that.
Excellent, excellent solution. And thank you for your help, Graham and Lois. So if you're a speaker in the near future, topics or evaluator, you may want to pin either Graham or Lois. The next part of our speech, or our meeting, excuse me, is our topics. I am very excited to see what Graham is going to do with the theme of the day, which is adventure. So Graham, please take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, we are going to be adventurous and we're going to explore over the next 12 minutes. Everybody here is a Toastmaster, I believe. Is there anybody who actually isn't a Toastmaster? Show of hands. Good. So we all know that, Shauna's not. Never mind. We'll leave you to last, Shauna. With table topics, this is your chance to speak extemporaneously without any notice. The timing for all of the table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, and you'll get an indication at a green at 1, an amber at 1.5, and a red at 2. So I have chosen a series of table topics today, which are all related to exploration or to adventure. And the first is that we've just started a new year. I'm not going to get into an argument about whether it's a new decade or not. That's one for a different day. But we have just started a new year, and it gives us a chance to explore this year. So what explorations have you set for yourself this year? And I'll ask that, if I may, of Swati. Since you are a Toastmaster, I will ask you if you can come forward. What explorations have you set for yourself this year?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. 2020, well, another way of saying hindsight, perhaps. I have actually decided to explore my adventurous side this year. I am a very anxious traveler. So I have decided that this year I am going to set aside my anxiety and explore the world. I've been looking at different traveling websites. I have been looking at different tours. I have an opportunity to go to San Diego, California for work, but it's one of my favorite places to visit in the US. This time, instead of just focusing on work, I plan to take extra time off to explore San Diego. I have family in the United Kingdom.
Green.
I am planning to visit them as well. And again, instead of making it just a business trip, I'm planning to spend quality time with my family and get a chance to look around the UK. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you very much for that. Behind me is Apollo 9, one of the Apollo moonshots that didn't actually land on the moon. It got close and then came back. The reason that I have focused on it is because while you are in San Diego, I would seriously suggest going to see the Air and Space Museum. It is fascinating, and that's where I took that photo. Okay, our second table topic is going to go to Psychoshore. Psychoshore, you have a single day to explore anywhere or any when. What do you choose and why? A single day to explore anywhere and any when. What do you choose? Psychoshore.
Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters of online presenters, and dear guests. One single day. Is that all I get? That should be all that I need to explore the New York City, the city of dreams, the city that I've been dreaming about from my childhood. I've seen movies based in New York City. I've seen big people based in New York City. I've seen the Wall Street. I've been fascinated, fantasized about visiting that place. So if I was given one day, I would go to all the places that I know in the New York City, in the New York City. The Central Park, all the Bollywood, Indian movie scenes, and then come down to Upper Manhattan, the Wall Street, downtown Manhattan, then go to the Staten Island, go to the Statue of Liberty, just take pictures of the skyline, go to the Brooklyn Bridge, run like Shah Rukh Khan, the biggest superstar in India, take pictures of the skyline of Brooklyn and Manhattan.
Green.
Take the ferry, and that is how I would spend my one day if I was given so. I am new to the United States, unlike many of you. And for me, living in a place where there is a population of 4,000 people in the entire town, basically it's a college town, only students, I would like to see the plethora of people, explore the plethora of people that are there in New York City. I've heard of the different varieties of people that are there. I would like to explore that. Different varieties of food. And I also wish I get Indian food. And that's something that I want to explore. And I want to explore the streets of New York City. One single day, I won't sleep. I won't stop. I will take as many metro rides as I can. I will go to all the places in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and Staten Island, all the 5 boroughs. I would explore my heart full. I would explore till I get tired. And I will explore till the Table Topics Master says it's red. Thank you so much.
and exploring until the red is a wonderful technique. Thank you, Saikashua, for that. All right. Our next one, and I'll give you warning because you're a guest. Sue, I'm going to ask you this. Tell me which is better, to explore and seek out adventure, or to be settled and content, and why? Is it better to explore and seek out adventure, or to be settled and content? Sue.
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, is it better to be an explorer or is it better to be settled? Well, for me, it's got to be the first one. Life is an exploration. It's about going out there and finding something new every single day, doing something that makes your heart sing, doing something that gives you joy. I'm going to be exploring this year and I'm so excited. I'm going to Australia. My son lives there and my 2 grandbabies. And I've not had much experience of being a grandma because my grandchildren live the other side of the world. So I don't get grandma hugs. I'm so adventurous. I'm so excited about seeing this and I'm so scared. It's been a long time since I've dealt with babies. Will I cope? Will I have the stamina? Will I have the energy? But it'll be fun. It'll be great. It'll be a great exploration. We're also planning to visit other places. I'm going to go on the Barrier Reef and go scuba diving, and that's scary too, because I'm claustrophobic and I don't like the thought of having that mask over my face. However, I can do it because it's an adventure and it will be fun. So let's leave the settled for those who want to be. That's not for me. Mr. Table Topics Master?
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for that. And when you make your way down under, make sure that you get in contact because we can point you to some things that I think you'll enjoy exploring.
Thank you.
All right, one last table topic. And if you don't get this one, then you can breathe easy. Tell me about an adventure that you undertook as a child, because exploring the world is something that we all do as children, either physically or in our minds. So tell us about an adventure that you undertook as a child, please, Romy. You'll need to unmute yourself, I think. No, the microphone's not working. Sorry about that. In that case, to keep us moving along, we'll ask you for your guest comments later. Instead, I will ask that question of, I thought I saw Rolando here earlier, but he seems to have gone, unless he is still here and I just can't see him. There he is, Rolando. I haven't seen you for ages. An adventure that you undertook as a child. Rolando Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmaster, and most welcome guests. Good evening. I thought I was breathing easy after I got away from Table Topics, but you got me. So as a kid, I used to love, like, every time my parents will go to work, especially in the summer, they leave us home, and we had a housekeeper, like a helper, that's supposed to watch us so we don't get out. But somehow I always try to sneak out to go play soccer on the street. So I did that one day. I snuck out and go play soccer, and then I ended up hurting myself. I fell, and then there was blood all over my chin as far as on my feet. And I tried to hide it because I wasn't supposed to go outside. And now I'm injured. So what do I do? And it seems like it's really bad because there was a lot of blood. So I came back, snuck into the house, and put some alcohol on my feet, and I tried to hide it. I never told my parents that I got injured. And my foot ended up getting worse, right? And when I kept watching it a week, because I haven't done anything to it as far as trying to take care of it medically, it seems like it's getting worse and worse. So I eventually told my mom that, oh, last week, a couple of weeks ago, I fell and now my foot doesn't look right. And she looked at my foot and they said, what happened? And I said, I fell. I was playing soccer and I fell. I said, and then she took me to the doctor, by the way. So when she took me to the doctor, and then the doctor said, if you didn't bring him right here on this time, he was gonna lose his foot. So I was lucky that I told my mom, and the doctor fixed me up. And when I came back, my mom said, you're gonna have a whipping when you get better. Back to you, Mr. Master.
Isn't that fabulous? Yeah, you've done the right thing. Now I'm going to give you a beating. I'll give you something to cry about, son. I can tell you now. Listen, thank you very much, Rolando, for that adventure. Thank you, everybody, for all of your contributions to tonight's table topics. I'm sorry that we didn't give a chance to everybody who hasn't spoken, but I've tried to do as many as I can. Thank you, and I'll now give control back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Excellent usage of the theme of the day. Great questions, great responses. Mr. Andy Byrne, how did we do for timing?
The timing is posted. Swati 1:27, Sai Kishore 2 minutes even, Sue 1:34, and Rolando 2:39.
It would appear that everybody is eligible with the exception of Rolando.
Correct.
Am I correct in that assumption?
Yep.
If you had laughed one less time, Rolando, you would have been within the time frame. It was well worth it. I enjoyed your third laugh, so it's okay. So please vote for your favorite topics, Master. If you have yet not voted for your favorite speaker, please do that as well. Moving on to the evaluation part of our meeting, Phase 3. We have a phenomenal general evaluator tonight. She will introduce all our evaluators and move this meeting into the third phase. Please welcome Asil.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and dear guests, welcome to the evaluation portion. It is a great opportunity for all of us to learn from our evaluators how to give constructive, valuable feedback, and also for the speakers how to do things differently when they give their speech next time. So our first speaker is our dear Madam President Lois Margolin, and David will be evaluating her speech. Please welcome David.
Thank you, Asil. And thank you, Lois, for hustling this together on very short notice. This is a speech that many of us have given and probably will have to give again several times, because there are always more people who are being introduced to the Pathways program or who need to be refreshed, who are confused and need to be unconfused. I'm old enough to remember when Lois was a brand new Toastmaster. Today she is a Jedi Master whose powers far exceed mine, but I'll do my best to try and calibrate where she is in the spectrum. I guess one of the things that struck me is that giving a Pathways 101 presentation in January 2010 as opposed to, say, January 2018 is that many people have heard this pitch before. They've heard the basics, and they are looking for some greater clarity. Those people who've been procrastinating, they've been trying to work through projects in the regular program or the manuals that they're familiar with, and they've been putting off getting into Pathways. And for some of those people, particularly the ones who are grumpier about it, I would want to provide some additional proof points. When you say there are 300 unique competencies, so what? Why should I care? What is it going to do for me? When you say there are real world transferable skills that I'm going to learn, yeah, prove it to me. What am I going to learn? And so, and again, a bunch of my criticisms are going to be completely unfair because Lois hustled this together in very short order. But, and I think also probably for time for trying to fit this into, if not 5 to 7, about 8 minutes presentation time, when she might normally take 20 minutes to present all this, she probably squeezed some things out. But you walked us through, Lois, the level 1, and you explained that it's kind of all the same for everybody on level 1, and you broke down the structure, including some things that people get confused about, like one of the projects is actually 3 different speeches or 2 speeches and an evaluation. So that's all good. But I would want to at least hint at the idea that there are more interesting things that you're going to get to in those upper levels. And once you get past level 1, you start to see more differences according to the path you've chosen between one and the next on level 2. And then on 3, 4, and 5, we start to get more electives. And I actually spent some time poking around, looking at what a good example might be. For example, by the time you get to level 4 in presentation mastery, one of the projects is manage online meetings. So kind of relevant to us. Another concern is how to write a compelling blog. So at least hint about why people are getting into it and why it is better and interesting. Ms. General Evaluator.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker was Norman, and Carol is going to evaluate Norman. Please take it away, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Asil. Norman, it's always a pleasure to hear your stories. I really enjoy them. I also get re-exposed to some of the characters of that time frame, and I don't remember much from that time frame, but I did do some research on it and learned a little bit more. So I enjoyed that part of it. Now, for this project, it's visionary communication and it's storytelling. I don't know much about the visionary communication, but I do know something about storytelling. And so I'm going to be looking at it from that angle. When we're telling stories, especially short stories, this is 5 to 7 minutes in length, ideally we have a maximum of 3 characters. So I'm going to suggest that you reduce the number of characters and develop those characters more fully. I'd love to see a little bit more information, and you did provide that with Bull O'Connor, but develop it further with the main characters. And I don't think we got the ferociousness of Bull O'Connor, even though you talked about him throwing water hoses at people. I still wanted to see the fear that people had in regards to him or some of the other characters you might have. One of the things I loved about your speech was the alliteration in the title. Haters hold hands. All right, so he made the haters hold hands. I love that alliteration with the HHH. I wanted to see that actually more explained though. What do you mean by that? Is the haters holding hands with each other? Or are they holding hands with MLK? And I know that sounds really basic, but I'd like to see it more fully developed. And the last point I wanted to mention was your title slide I found to be confusing because you didn't really go into, maybe it was a Pecha Kucha presentation, but did that really need to be on the title slide? I thought perhaps just an opening slide related to MLK and why you were focusing on him would be more effective. Thank you so much, Norman, for continuing to educate us about those times and those people. I look forward to your next speech. Cheers.
Thank you, Carol. So our next speaker was Elaine, and Jim will be evaluating her speech. Please take it away, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guest this evening, and especially Toastmaster Elaine Nieberding. Elaine, this was a DL4 presentation on exploring, see, I got it in, exploring a public relations strategy. And specifically, you used this as an opportunity to promote our guest speaker's appearance here next month. And that was a wonderful choice of topic, and it blended in very well with the purpose of the speech. Congratulations. You succeeded in doing this. Number one, you described our speaker, made him real to us. Two, you connected us to him. We're more likely to be interested in listening to somebody if we like them. And so you not only introduced him by name, but you showed him speaking, you made him a real person. That was very good. But you didn't stop there. You described the benefits of attending, all the things that we would learn when we came to the presentation, and best of all, you told us, repeatedly you told us how we could get people to attend. And that's the purpose, of course, of public relations. So you did all of that very well. A couple of specific comments. Your background, like your background very much. It's not static, it flows, and yet it's not obtrusive. Very excellent. You described how to pronounce Akim Nowak's name. Thank you very much for that. It's so easy to simply throw a name out, and especially if it's a somewhat unusual name for some of us, and we're left gasping, wondering what was it that you said. And you took the time to actually say what his name was so that we could, again, relate to him. And it was appropriate. Your gestures, I apologize for that. Your gestures were very effective. I like the way that you used your hands in your presentation. I have a couple of suggestions, and they both kind of relate in the same direction. Earlier on, you were talking about Akim, but you didn't show him. And it would have been helpful at that particular point to at least shown his face so that we could relate to him as a person rather than as a name. Now, you did show him a little bit later, and better yet, you showed a video which showed him talking. But most of the screen was other stuff. It was the navigation and things like that. And it would have been awful nice if you could have cropped so that we only saw the video of him speaking and not all the other stuff that was around there. That was just kind of wasted space. But this was a wonderful presentation, very effective. I think you're going to generate a lot of people coming to our guest appearance next week. And basically, as a public relations strategy, you knocked this one out of the park. Quite an adventure, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. So may I ask our timer how evaluators did?
I'll be happy to share that with you. I'll just put this last one in for Jim.
Be good, thing.
Okay. All right, our evaluator is David, 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Carol for Norman, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Jim for Lane, 3 minutes. Everybody made.
Thank you, Andy. So all qualified. Please send your vote to our vote counter, Tricia. Thank you. So now I will call our helpers. So let me start with our counter, John Gallahan.
Madam General Evaluator, the level of this club makes it difficult to pick out ahs, ums, and everything because people don't use them very much. Tiger, didn't hear anything in yours. Lois, nothing at all. Norman, you had a number of ahs and ums in the opening. Everything stopped after the first minute or so, but that first opening was a little bit rough. In the table topics, everything sounded very clean in that. In the evaluations, David, you had a lot of ahs and ums, especially early on. Carol, quite a few ums throughout the entire thing, and Jim's was totally clean. That's my report.
Thank you, John. So our next volunteer, grammarian Lou Brown.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We had several good word and phrase usage today. Norman, of course, the title of your speech, he made the haters hold hands, use the word conviction. If you don't stand for something, you fall for something. Elaine, camaraderie, and I always get confused. Is it 4 syllables or 5? It's one of those tricky words you have to sometimes look up. Convener, caring is sharing, comfortable in his skin. And my favorite, his body sings. Let's see, Psyche Shore, I will explore until the timer says red. Very colorful there, in more ways than one. Sue, life is an exploration, and use the word claustrophobic. Rolando with whipping, gonna get a whipping. David, I loved your kind of sing-song phrase. Lois went from a new Toastmaster to a Jedi Master. Jim Barber used the word obtrusive. Lois said big league, and I actually had to think about it twice because at first I thought you said big league. So I was like, oh, wait a minute, I think she said big league. Let's see, the word explore was used by Tiger, Graham, Swati, Psychoshore, Sue, and if I missed anybody, I do apologize. I want to give a shout out to Asil. I don't know if anyone caught her initial opening screen. I'm going to point it out, Asil, I hope you don't mind. She had a picture of sailboats in her background and said, I don't give a ship, I'm going on an adventure. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lou. So our next helper, John Quick, Watcher. Please take it away. Thank you.
Madam General Evaluator, I had some private conversations with people about their video feeds. I had to run and close my curtains because I was getting sunspots. This is a risk we don't get when we're presenting at night, but now that I'm presenting at daytime, I have new things to consider. For our speakers, Lois, some of your slides were a bit text heavy because they were more like documents. To make them more visual aids, maybe break up the pieces and show one at a time, or even reduce the amount of text because your voice is going to fill in the gaps. Also, the ratio was a 4:3, whereas most screens are closer to a 16:9 widescreen now. And we saw the difference with Norman's. His filled the screen better, which just gave us a little bit better aesthetic. Now, Norman, you had really good colors in there, but with your photos, one thing I could suggest to help me focus attention is to use one photo on a slide, and then also you could try and fill the whole frame with that photo, so we have a bigger view of it. Lastly, Elaine, one thing that I saw was interesting with her, because of the way her background design was, it put the focus slightly over, and she moved to slightly off center to accommodate, I think, the design that was in her, so it framed her in the style of background that she chose. So that was an interesting effect. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So, chat monitor, Deborah, please take it away. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Well, tonight's chat was just made. It wasn't really overpowering, but it was powering in one area, especially when they were discussing the decade, if it was a new decade or if we were still in the same one. So the debate continued until Carol went and brought it in. She Googled and made the statement. And sorry, everybody that thinks we're in the old decade. We are in the new one. So welcome, new decade. The other thing that was that, and Lou Brown's going, no. Anyway, the other thing that was really interesting was that Jim posted that Jimmy Dent, that he had offered to help someone out with Pathways, and he found it amazing that regardless if someone's new or has been in Pathways, you know, for 4 levels, that they're still having confusion. So, you know, evidently it's a universal thing, because I also noticed it quite a bit on Facebook lately too. But that is it. Lou Brown just mentioned with the Sills background, it kind of reminded him of a car insurance commercial. So it's always interesting watching the chat, and it's always interesting being here. Back to you, Sil.
Thank you, Deborah. So it was a great exploration today, hearing all reports, and thank you so much for that. The meeting was enjoyable, and I really liked how Tiger did his job and transitions between speakers. He actually listened to them and commenting them. Good job, Tiger. So and table topic session, Graham, I really love your questions too, because they were easy, and I didn't feel, you know, sometimes when you hear questions you feel uncomfortable and you're just like, what should I say, what should I say? No, your questions were comfortable. Thank you. And we had 3 amazing evaluators. So David gave us his feedback. Interesting thing, just giving hint that we need to take to the upper level, and just show what levels are about. Carol talked about a storytelling angle, and that the reduced numbers of characters and also alliteration of the titles. And Jean, he talked about a suggestion was showing the face of the speaker. Good job, evaluators. So now I will ask our last helper, vote counter, Tricia. Please take it away.
Roll call. So we have best speaker, congratulations to Elaine. Best table topics, congratulations to Sai. And best evaluator, Jim Barber.
Yay, congratulations. So now I think I finished my portion. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Tiger, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Asil. Excellent meeting. Once again, we have broken through and showed the world what a wonderful, amazing club we are. Excellent job, Asil. Excellent job with topics, Graham. All the evaluators, all the speakers, everyone that did table topics. Magnificent meeting. At this time, I will go ahead and turn the podium, our visual or virtual podium, back to our esteemed president, Lois.
Thank you, Tiger. What a great meeting. Congratulations to all our winners of the day. I would like to invite our Vice President of Education if you would like to chat about our week's agenda. I know you are Toastmaster of the day. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Yes, we're looking for lots of volunteers for next week. It's a Chinese New Year theme. We have 2 open speaker slots. We have a topics master, evaluators, and also our functionary roles. So why don't we see who's ready to volunteer for something right now? Who wants to be topics master next week? Go ahead and come on the audio.
I signed up for that, John.
Oh, good. Okay. I must need to reload the page.
Yeah.
How about evaluators? Do we have anybody who wants to be evaluator for next week?
I'll be an evaluator.
You're general evaluator. Thank you.
Norman, would you like to be an evaluator? Okay, there's one.
Okay, Norman, good. I'll put you in there on the agenda. Okay, we also have the functionary roles open, and go ahead and dive in if you're looking for an opportunity to speak, because right now there's 2 openings.
All right, thank you, John. Let's turn to our guests and see what they thought about the meeting. Swati, our winner of Table Topics, what did you think?
I really appreciate this opportunity to be here today, and I hope I can come back and attend another meeting.
We would love to have you come back.
Thank you.
Pravdo, did I say her name right?
Prabodh. Prabodh.
What did you think?
Yeah, it was wonderful. So almost everybody was a veteran speaker. So it was a wonderful listening to each and everybody. It was fun, real fun.
Well, we hope to see you again. Shauna, what did you think?
I enjoyed being here. Thank you so much for having me, and I agree with everything that they've said about you know, having veteran speakers and being able to hear all of the topics, and I love table topics.
Well, we're glad. We're glad.
Thank you.
All right, Shauna. Sue, how did you like it?
I thought it was great fun. Thank you, John, for inviting me and telling me all about it. I do appreciate it. It's very different from Bricks and Mortars Toastmasters, but it's great fun. And I say it's nice to see so many people from all over the place. It's fantastic. Nice meeting you all. I may well be back.
Okay, I had a correction. I understand. I misheard. Is it Sakashir who won Best Table Topics? Yes. Sorry about that. I'll make sure I change my letter. Thank you. Let's see, Rami, what did you think?
I enjoyed it very much. I'm having asthma, so I cannot talk too much right now, but it was very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed. Sarah, what did you think?
I had a great time. I really enjoyed this format, and I will be back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Willie, I think you came on just a little bit after the meeting started. What did you think?
Definitely every online presenter meeting is wonderful. I am lost of words.
Well, we hope you're going to be joining soon. This is your 3rd or 4th visit. Hopefully we'll get, Elaine will be touching base with you and seeing.
I am in contact with Elaine for time to time.
Okay. She's so good. Elaine, did you have something to say real quick? We got 2 minutes.
I wanted to request email addresses in the chat from Rami and Sarah. What a wondrous evening to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guests. Wow, what a way to start out the new decade. But somehow I didn't know all of you were coming, so that's why I'm checking and asking for Rami and Sarah's email address. If you could open up the chat and send it to me, or I would appreciate that. And I always follow up with our guests. Thank you.
Sure. Right. Thank you. We have 1 minute left. Is there any business that needs to be? I think good. Well, with that, I'm going to adjourn at 8:59 on the clock. I think a few of us will stay on for another 5 to 10 minutes in case there are any questions. So feel free to stay on and ask questions, especially for our guests. This is your opportunity to explore a little bit more the world of online presenters. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.